The Night Agent has the third best season 1 debut for a Netflix original, was number 6 on Netflix's most popular list at the time of release, and it had over 216.4 million views on its second week from release. That's almost as much as You. This is one thriller that should be on your to watch list, and no, it's not because of guns or cool cars or assassins, it's a whole lot more. I must say the show surprised me, and in a good way, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, The Night Agent is an adaptation from a book of the same name by Matthew Kirk. And I hadn't read the book before going into this, so I was kind of like just going with a very fresh mind, like literally a blank page, and boy was that filled quickly. I did have high hopes for it because I definitively love thriller stories, especially the ones that involve the government and military. So I was a bit expectant, but I did not anticipate this. Everything about the show, especially the story, is so good. I binge watched it in under 2 days. I was that hooked, but what exactly hooked me? What made me binge watch this show for 2 days straight? To answer that, let's briefly take a look at the premise. So the show primarily follows the story of Rose Larkin and Peter Sutherland. Rose is bankrupt and thus decides to stay with her uncle and aunt, who just happen to be secret federal agents. That's something you don't see every day. Assassins come for her spy relatives and they tell her to go to a brown house, give her a paper with some code words in it, and tell her to say these words: night action. She thankfully obeys them because, what do you know, the assassins succeed in brutally murdering her aunt and uncle. And just like that, she's sucked into a world of espionage and way too many conspiracies. Peter Sutherland is an FBI agent who's no veteran, but apparently he's doing well for himself. I mean, he saved a bunch of people from a ghastly subway explosion, and he works at the White House, even though it's as a night agent. As the night agent in the White House, he was the one destined to pick Rose's call. Now, I can't narrate the whole premise and inciting incidents because chances are you watched the show. So let's talk about what made the show so good. Number 1. The characters. By the way, people have mixed feelings about this, with many thinking the acting could have been better. Personally, I think the actors did a wonderful job on the show. I mean, the attention to detail and dynamics was quite enjoyable to watch. But beyond the acting, these characters shone. Each one had a motivation unique to them, however extreme or flaccid that may be, it was there. And I mean everyone. Heck, we even got an inside look at the future plans of the assassin couple, for instance, them thinking about having a baby. Amongst the political genocide party, we still saw some clash of interests. This uniqueness of character motivation really added more depth to the show. Even between the protagonists of the show, we saw some kind of conflict, like when Peter didn't want to turn his back on Diane Farr, even when he knew he probably should. Why? Because he didn't want to be treated with the same disdain his father was treated with. We even see conflicts within the characters' selves, like with the president contemplating whether it was still wise to have her most trusted parliament member close to her, even though she was well aware there was a breach in our parliament. With Rose, she's distrustful almost immediately of all the government officials, understandably so, and she only has 2 things on her mind: stay alive and catch the people who caused her family's death. We have Chelsea Arrington, a Secret Service agent on the Vice President's daughter's detail, who is hell-bent on making a name for herself in a largely male-centric organization. Can I just go off the record and say I loved this character? Like, everything about her was so convincing, and she had a really interesting narrative. Agent Monk's Vice President Redfield, Deputy Director Jamie Hawkins, heck, even his wife was compelling. All the characters, every single one of them, had a strong motive, and it really sealed the show for me, as I'm sure it did for many others as well. The tension within and without the characters was so palpable, it is definitely something that made the show stick. Number 2, pacing. The show wasn't the fastest paced thing on television. Regardless, the story never fell flat. There were barely any dull moments, and for the most part, I was riled at what was going to happen next. It didn't feel rushed as well, which can be a problem for many TV shows on air nowadays. Some people online complained that it was in fact too slow. However, I believe that's not the case. The story unfolded at the right pace, allowing the plot to thicken along the way. Can you imagine what the show would be like if it were like 5 or even 7 episodes long? It'd be like that Game of Thrones finale that I really don't want to talk about so as not to reopen deep wounds.
Oof, that was painful to watch.
Painful to watch.
Briefly, if you're enjoying this video, please leave a like. It really helps with the algorithm, and subscribe if you want more of this content from me. I digress. Number 3, setting. Okay, I love a good setting, a good world, whatever the case may be. But do you know what I love more than that? A good detailed setting. The attention to detail on this was surreal. I mean, from the first episode, I could tell I was in for a quality watch. It reminded me of when I watched the first episode of Stranger Things and went like, okay, this is good. Netflix replicated that here. Well, obviously not the same setting, can't have aliens in the White House now, can we? What I'm saying is that nothing was left vague, from the Secret Service to the FBI. The show elaborated on so much about the government even when it didn't need to, which could be a good thing if done right, and it definitely did it right. The cinematography was also quite impressive with all the blue and grey tones. It was typically what you'd expect from a spy thriller. Another show that did this really well, probably even better, was The Terminal List on Amazon. The two shows are actually quite similar, and I intend to do a deep dive in the nearest future comparing them, so stick around for that. Number 4, Climax. Okay, this show definitely went 180 at some points, which was completely justified. We eventually learned that Diane Farr, contrary to what she so desperately tried to make us believe, was in fact an accomplice to Vice President Redface here and his psychopathic capitalist douchebag friend. I just love how Maddie's kidnap genuinely threatens their plot so much so that the main baddie starts crying. It was just so satisfying to watch. No one is accepted from their consequences of their actions in the show. So we have so much going on with this ensemble of characters, and somehow it still manages to come together, which is brilliant. Peter, Rose, Agent Arrington, and Monks all come together to oppose the absolute pinnacle of the government. It doesn't get any more high stakes than that. And it's also not surprising because it's their motivations that drive them to go to such lengths. Even Maddie teams up with them to take down her own father. We also get the death of some great characters like the assassin couple, Ellen and Dale, and while it was satisfying, I felt more could have been done with their characters. Monk's death was absolutely uncalled for. That character was too good to have been tossed away like that. However, that scene was obviously heading in that direction. I just knew someone was going to die, so I was somewhat expecting he'd be the one. Like, I actually predicted that, which was just funny. Now, I will confess, there were a slew of things that didn't make sense in the show, like, they just didn't. For instance, Peter's friend, Cisco, died. He didn't seem to be shaken by it as much as one would expect him to be, considering the show made it clear that he was his only friend. What's more, he's the one who put him in danger in the first place. Yeah, I was kind of confused about that one. There's also the unnerving reality that Maddie should have never been able to ditch her security profile that easily. I mean, it's just not something you expect to happen to the vice president's daughter. I don't know, for someone as competent as Chelsea Aronson, she sure fucked up on that one. And these were just a few of several other oddities and plot conveniences. That said, this story was truly really good. It got me captivated from start to finish, and now you know why. So that is my take on The Night Agent. Excellent show, top tier. I'll give it an 8.5 over 10. The storytelling, characters, and overall theme of the show was great. I never grew bored while watching. It was well paced. That said, is it a perfect show? Well, it's certainly no House of Dragon, which I will also be reviewing in the nearest future. Once again, like this video and subscribe to the channel for more of my opinions on stories, genres, and franchises. And remember, there aren't stories without memories. If you liked this video, watch this one over here. Let me know what you think about The Night Agent. Was it a good show? Did it do justice to the book? I haven't read the book, so I'd actually like to know. Till next time.